Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing, testing. So how is everybody doing today? How is chat today? Holding up, I hope? So, I'd like to start the lecture today. I know I'm starting a little early, but I'd like to start it with a sort of Q&A session about the test that's happening tomorrow, if anybody has anything that they'd like to ask about it. Oh, we have a comment. I left the house for the first time in 2 weeks to go grocery shopping, and it was great. Isn't it crazy how, like, something completely mundane, like buying lettuce, becomes, like, this, you know, cultural nexus now? It's like, ooh, the highlight of my week is that I went and bought lettuce. It's, like, fantastic. I don't know if you actually bought lettuce, but, you know. Anyway, if anybody has any questions about the midterm, if you wouldn't mind putting those into chat at this point in time, and I will begin answering them in about a minute or so, once we are officially started. Ah! I'm psychic, that's the thing. I'm the psychic professor. How did I know that you bought lettuce? I just knew. So, I have a question with respect to the upcoming midterm, which is tomorrow. I have a question. Is there ever a time when we would have to use URL library instead of requests library? Because for the homework, I've kind of been using requests for everything. No. For the, you have correctly perceived that a certain amount of file I/O stuff is going to be in there, and I think that it's reasonable of me to tell you that it's all going to be local sources, not remote sources. But, so you will probably have to use neither the URL library nor the requests library. It is good to have options, though. So, another question. How long do you think it might take us to do the midterm? Well, I think it's going to vary quite widely. I'd say that if you're, shall we say, of the level of, if you're proficient with Python programming and don't really need, or if you're like one of these people who are just taking this course for the credit sort of thing, because you already know Python, I would estimate that the test probably would take you somewhere between 20 minutes and a half hour. And generally speaking, again, your mileage is going to vary, but I would say that in general, you could multiply that by 3 or 4, depending on your level of skill. Now, obviously, there are going to be some people who take a very long time to do it because their, Python skills might not be so hot. But, there's going to be a certain, there's 300 people in the class, right? So a certain number of people are probably going to fail the course. So if you're going to fail the course, you'll probably take a very long time to do the midterm. But I would say that a reasonable amount of time to take on the midterm is probably around an hour and a half to 2 hours. But that's, we will see. You've got 24 hours you've got 24 hours to do it in, so I'd say, 2 hours out of 24 possible hours, even taking into account sleeping and eating, that's probably a reasonable time frame. That's like, and also keep in mind I'm giving you the hour that we usually take for a lecture. So, question: will the midterm have visible test cases like the assignments? Answer: yes, it will. Yes, they will. Yeah, there will be visible test cases. There won't be perhaps as many as you're used to. There is a requirement for you to be able to use your skills to test your own software to a degree, but there will be test cases. Yes. Next question. Is the level of difficulty more similar to previous tests we have had or to the assignments? I would say that the level of difficulty is probably closer to an assignment than the previous tests we've had. The thing about the previous tests we've had is that the previous tests were on paper and constrained to 50 minutes. And, and not to mention we did have that first midterm that was like insultingly easy. So it's certainly not anywhere close to the difficulty of the first midterm. Yeah, I'd say it's around about. Round about an assignment. Not in terms of length, but in terms of difficulty. Yeah. Okay. Next question: is it going to be marked by an autograder, or will it be marked by hand like the tests? It will be marked by an autograder. Since it's in Jupyter, this is sort of the way that we do things in Jupyter. That being said, the test cases have been written very intelligently by Eric, who is a wizard with this sort of thing. He has written the test cases such that there's a good balancing of marks in the question with respect to how much of the question gets finished. He has basically baked into the autograder a certain degree of part marks for stuff. So with respect to it, I'm feeling reasonably confident that the test cases that exist for these questions will be good coverage, good spread, and as always, if anybody feels that they've been dealt with unfairly with respect to the tests, you'll be you'll have mechanisms for, disputing grades and all the rest of it. The other advantage that we may offer, because we're doing things through AutoGrader, we can get the feedback back to you guys much more quickly. It should be by Friday that we'll be able to get everybody their feedback, and it will be feedback in the sense that we've been giving you guys feedback up to this point, i.e. you will see which test cases you failed. Okay, next question. Will we be expected to include exceptions handling even if the question doesn't explicitly ask for it? No. So, if the question does not ask you to use exceptions and exception handling, then you're not expected to do that for that question. You're not, don't just cake everything in a layer of exception handling. That is not going to be a profitable use of your time. As always, make sure that you read the question carefully. Make sure that you answer the question you're being asked. And a couple of other notes. This is a take-home test. This is in the format of a take-home test. So, with respect to permitted aids, you're not just allowed your calculator anymore. The lecture slides are permitted. The textbook is permitted to the degree that that would be useful, and I'm not sure it would be extremely useful, to be honest with you. The Python documentation is an acceptable aid. The one thing that's not an acceptable aid is anybody else who's in the class. So, no talking to other people about the questions. You got to do the work yourself, right? We're going to be checking these very, very carefully for improper collaboration. And that also means that we're not going to have any discussions on Jupyter about the test questions until the test is finished. And I'm going to have Josh on that to make sure that there's no, discussion of the test questions that's going on official channels. And no unofficial channels either. Question: is there answers for assignments so that we can learn from previous assignment? Have you not been getting the emails, Lawrence? Check your spam folder, because what happens is Eric, every time there's an assignment, Eric sends back feedback emails where you can see which test cases you passed and which ones you failed on the most recent, on the assignment. So if you take a look in your spam folder, you'll probably find all of these feedback emails that you may have been missing so far. And that applies to pretty much everybody listening if you haven't been getting those emails. If your spam folder has automatically deleted the feedback emails, because I think it's a thing with spam folders that after 2 weeks or 30 days or something like that, they start scrubbing themselves because, just as a memory saving feature. So if you are a person who feels if you can't find your feedback email, or if you don't have your feedback email, send an email to Eric requesting a resending of the specific feedback emails that you're missing, and he would be happy to provide that for you. He's been the one who's been on top of all of that. Cool. But yeah, it shouldn't be too awful bad, this test. Are there any questions? Any other questions? Any further questions? I will take a moment and answer any more questions that you might have. Okay, I'm going to presume that everybody has had all of their questions answered and that everybody is going to get 100% on the test. So, let's finish off the databases stuff, eh? So, the last time we were talking, we had just finished this example of how you can take data and insert it into an SQL query rather than sort of manually composing it using string concatenation. We're going to have a few slides later on in this slide set that demonstrate why string concatenation is a terrible, repeat, absolutely abominable, deplorable, misanthropic, atrocious way of composing SQL requests. We're gonna show that. But anyway, so this was all good. So let's talk about relationships between tables. So let's suppose that with respect to our table that we were working with in our handy-dandy local Jupyter Hub instance, we have a database that we're working on here. And let me just check to see whether we have what we've got in this database. Oop. So we're going to talk about how you can establish the differences between customers. Nope. Okay. I think I was doing that in my local, actually, not on Jupyter. Sorry, guys. So with respect to the databases, we're now going to talk about... Oh, I have another question. Will there be recursion questions on the upcoming test? Well, that would be talking, wouldn't it? That would be saying a lot. Recursion was a topic from the last midterm. Generally speaking, the commitment that I made to you guys was the tests would not be cumulative to the degree that the material isn't overlapping. So no, there's not going to be any recursion on this test coming up. However, it's fair game for the exam. Anyway, so with respect to relationships, it is a very rare database that only contains one table. So this movie store database that we've been working on has in it, at this point, a couple of different tables. Select star from movies. Oh, yes. So this is our database. This is what our movies database looks like. And with the other class, we put in a couple of other fields so that, you know, it saves us some time in this class. From customers. There we go. We've got some customers in here as well. And we've got a rentals table. So it's necessary in this particular case, like the use case for this database is that we have a database that contains all of the movies in the rental store. We have a database that contains all of the customers who are registered customers of the rental store, and we have a database of active rentals. So when we created this customer table, we used the following schema. We had customer ID, which is an integer and a primary key. That's this column here. We had name, text required, which is the name of the renter, and we have an address, which is also text. The address is not required because we are comfortable renting movies to people of no fixed address. Of course, the command for creating that is create table customers, and then you enter the schema. Notice one thing about SQL. Notice all statements end in a semicolon. You guys who have been programming in Python up to now may be like, semicolon, what is this? This isn't a thing. It's not in Python, but it is in more or less every programming language that isn't Python, at least the popular ones. SQL being no exception. And then we have a rentals table. The rentals establishes a relationship between customers and movies. That's an important thing to note. So, when we create this table, we use the following schema. We have a customer ID, which is an integer and required. We have a movie ID, which is an integer and required. And we have two dates, a date rented and a date due. Notice that these two fields, movie ID and customer ID, are in fact the primary keys of the movies and customer databases respectively, or maybe anti-respectively. So, this is good. So, here's the problem. If we try to look up all of the people who have rented a movie, what we're going to get is we're going to get a number of customer ID numbers. We won't actually get any data about the customer themselves from that query. However, because the customer ID hypothetically corresponds to the customer ID number in the customer table, we can use that data to compose a table from the rental table and the customer table. So, this is what we do. We have the customer table and we have the rental table. And using the command where customers.customerID equals rentals.customerID, this generates a table that contains, well, it's easier just to show you guys. So, select star from rentals, comma, customers. Very important. If you want to see data from more than one table, you have to indicate all of the tables that you want to see the data from. Where customers.customerID is equal to rentals.customerID. Notice here, oh, sorry about that, pardon me. Notice here that the way that we address fields within a table is using dot syntax, which is very similar to how we address the fields of a class in Python. So note that what we end up with is 103, 50, 22, a date, another date, then 103, Randy Wolf, 789, Pacific Avenue. So what it has done is it has taken the end of the customer, it's taken the end of the customer database, or the customer table, and it's smacked it on the end of the rentals database, or the rental table, so that you get a joined table that contains the fields of both things. However, it's been filtered by this the fact that the customer IDs have to be the same. So to understand how this process is working perhaps a bit more clearly, let's try running this same selection process, but without the condition. You'll notice that what we, and I apologize for this being so small, but because this isn't a terminal, I can't, well, maybe I can magnify it. Let me see here. Boink. Okay. Oh, that's not too bad. So, notice that what has happened is we have basically, notice we have the first rental category repeated 3 times, then the next rental entry repeated 3 times, and then the next rental entry repeated 3 times. And then we have each element in the second table repeated once per entry in the rental table. What it's doing is it's essentially performing a kind of a multiplication operator here. The total number of entries that's generated from select all from 2 tables is equal to the number of entries in one table multiplied by the number of entries in the other table. So for each entry in the one table, it tries every entry in the other table. Basically, SQL is assuming that you're going to try to narrow this down somehow. But this is, reasonably, this is just how it's working under the hood. So if, for example, we wanted to do movies and customers, we get a whole heck of a lot more. Can I actually increase the size of this thing? No, I can't. But you can see we've got a large number here because it's doing the same thing. It's multiplying that again. So where rentals dot movie ID is equal to movies dot movie ID. And this returns only those elements. And if we remove customers here, it'll be readable. It returns only those rented items which have a valid movie ID in the table. So there you go. So it goes. So that's how you work with a relationship. And this slide 35 says exactly what I've been saying. So if you want to compose these relationships, you can do that as well. So if you want customer ID and movie ID to both line up, all you have to do is type both of those conditions out and use Boolean conjunction, the AND operator. Are there any questions about that? If not, we've got a few quick slides. So, in order to modify a record that has already been entered, we have a specific command for that in SQL called the update command. So, if we wanted to update the table movies such that we set the genre of the thing with the title Monsters Incorporated to a R-rated horror movie, then we use the following notation. Let's just take a look at movies so that we can do this somewhat more intelligently. So let's update movies and set genre to horror, sure, why not? And set rating equal to R, where the title is equal to Casablanca. Then, if we take a look at our database again, you'll notice that Casablanca is now an R-rated horror movie. So, it's very important that you have that where condition in while you're performing an update. If you do not, then every single entry in the database is going to be updated in that way. There is no undo command in SQL, so any changes that you make to the database are permanent. So if you, with respect to this example, if you performed the same operation but you left out the where condition, what you would end up doing is you would set every single element or every single entry in the database to a R-rated horror movie, which has the net effect of essentially blowing out any useful information that might have been in the database. Now, maybe that information that's in the database is no longer useful, so maybe this is not outside the scope of an operation that you might intend to perform. However, just be very, very careful. The thing about databases is they sort of operate on Linux rules, and Linux rules, it's sort of the same type of rule that you have to have in mind when you're operating in Bash in a Linux system. You, as the system operator, are given the power to completely screw yourself over with respect to the commands you enter. If you want to destroy everything that's in a Linux directory, which is, like destroy it completely and utterly with no chance of returning to where you were, then you type the following, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In 7 characters, you can completely destroy your operating system by running this in the wrong folder. Although, if you had to do that, you would have to do this first, which gives you super user commands, super user privileges. So, I digress. This, you could blow out your whole operating system with. Which is, these types of systems do not make the attempts to protect themselves against idiotic users that something like Windows does. Anyway, if you wish to delete an entry from a database, then we have a delete command. Again, unless you use a where condition, you might end up deleting everything in a table, so please be very, very, very careful when you do it, but essentially the syntax is delete from table where some condition. And of course, drop table is the command for deleting an entire table. Again, be very, very careful, there is no undo. So let's get back to this thing where I said that it's a terrible idea to format an SQL query via string composition. So if we were to, oh my goodness, fit page width best fit? That best fit is best. So with respect to this code that is here, what you're doing is you're basically writing a Python wrapper that just gets what rating the user wants to get from the database, and then it acquires the corresponding data. This might seem innocuous. However, here's a question. What if the user enters quotes into the string? This is a problem. It's no longer a valid SQL query because the string that you would result with would be select star from movies where rating is equal to quote parental space quote guidance quote quote. SQL would think that guidance is a key term within SQL. because it's not in quotes, therefore it's not text. It's not a text literal, it's a command. This is a problem. This is a problem because it means somebody who's accessing your program has the ability to insert commands into your SQL queries, and this is something you don't want. What if you have a more clever user? What if this person enters PG, end quote, or x is equal to x? What you would result with here is an additional condition added to your where statement that makes it such that the database will give up the entire database. X is always equal to x. Therefore, that statement will always evaluate to true. Therefore, this is like turning a limited select from command with a where condition to a select command with no condition, which means it vomits up the entire database. Maybe you don't want people seeing the entire database. This is a problem. This is a data breach. This is a data vulnerability. However, it gets even worse. You have this thing called an Sql Injection Attack. When a user input is mixed into a string query in this manner, which is a very sort of intuitive way for a programmer to design things, the application becomes vulnerable to Sql injection attacks. This occurs when the request query contains SQL code and commands that can actually get executed by the database. This can be used to send more data than is intended. It can be used to trick login checks and gain access without knowing a password. It can be used to access data from other tables using join commands, and sometimes it can even be used to modify or delete data. So here's a question. How do you guys think your passwords are stored? Right? Let's say you have, your university login, right? How do you think your university's login is stored by the university? That's right, folks. It's an encrypted database. So, how about if this was the string that the user entered? PG end quote semicolon. So this person's now starting a new statement entirely. Delete from movies where x is equal to x. So this query would end up being select star from movies where rating is equal to PG, then delete from movies where x is equal to x. This would blow out the entire database. This can be extremely harmful and extremely destructive. Fortunately, we have one layer of security here. The execute command for a SQL cursor, in Python at least, will only execute one command at a time. It'll complain if there's multiple commands being used. However, if you're using execute script as opposed to execute, that is a command that is designed to use multiple SQL statements at once. This is highly problematic because you now removed any useful thing that you might have. What am I trying to say? The safety checking is no longer actually happening here. So let's imagine the following attack. What if the user enters the following? Enter the ID. So first this is asking for the ID of a new movie, then it's asking for the title of a new movie to insert a movie into the database, again wrapped in Python. So we enter some sort of ID number for the first value, then we enter a string that says fake, ends the parenthesis, semicolon, new statement, drop table movies, minus minus. Minus minus is how you make a comment. It starts a line comment, and it's equivalent to the bash symbol, or pound symbol. Bash symbol is something else. It's equivalent to the hashtag in Python. So what you end up with is insert into movies, movie ID title, values, this, that, then drop table movies. And then, since it's a comment, anything after the comment is ignored. So this command would cause you to lose your entire database. And I'll come back to this comic. So SQL injection attacks are actually the #1 security threat to web applications. According to the Open Web Application Security Project, which can be found at this URL, many large-scale breaches are due to the these SQL injection attacks. For example, if any of you remember that big breach that Yahoo had in 2012, that was using a join-based SQL injection attack. They managed to get nearly 500,000 login credentials from Yahoo. There are many other examples listed on Wikipedia, of which there might be some interesting recent ones. So, this is in reverse chronological order. Yes. So in 2014, they hit Johns Hopkins University. A biomedical engineering server had become victim to SQL injection attacks. So, yes, it's actually a relatively simple thing to do. You do have to make certain assumptions about what the code you're attacking looks like, but it's certainly possible. So, the way that you prevent this is by sanitizing your inputs. When you use this question mark notation that we have been using, this is a placeholder that's automatically bound to the subsequent value in a safe way. So they are checking this to make sure it's not having code injected, which is good. So use this. Don't use string concatenation to format your SQL queries. So then you have the Fable of Little Bobby Tables, which is from the popular webcomic xkcd.com. If anybody doesn't already read xkcd.com, you should. It's a very fun webcomic. So, hi, this is your son's school. We're having some computer trouble. Oh dear, did he break something? In a way. Did you really name your son Robert drop table students minus minus? Oh yes, Little Bobby Tables we call him. Well, we've lost this year's student records. I hope you're happy. And I hope you've learned to sanitize your database inputs. So there you go. Hoddy, 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 ha. Guffaw, guffaw. So there you go. That's us rounding out databases. I hope everybody's learned something. Hopefully. So, with respect to that, just so you know, doing some SQL commands, that's something that may very well appear on the final. Obviously, it won't be like construct a database from scratch and do a million things to it. It'll be, it'll just test to make sure you've been paying attention. Nice to see the stream back up to something approximating healthy numbers, though. Always feels nice not to be talking to thin air. So, with respect to that, this is the last topic for the course. We're going to talk a little bit about machine learning. This is a topic that's really more informational than programming problem-based. We're not really going to be having a whole lot of no corresponding assignment material. Obviously, as you guys can all see, the last assignment. Well, you have been able to see the last assignment for a long time now. The machine learning material is really like can I go over question 2 from the 9th assignment? As opposed to doing machine learning. That was due yesterday, so, well, I can take a look at it. Sure. Okay. Well, we'll start machine learning a different day then, I guess. Nope. That's submissions. Come on, where's the file? There we are. Okay. Assignment 9. Question 2, working with CSV. Not practice question. Well, I mean, I think everybody's interested to see this. Yeah, we can. Let me just zoom this out a little bit so I can actually find the bloody question. Okay, stocks again. Recall stocks question from lab 4. Let's assume I'm playing the stock market. I buy low, sell high. I'm a day trader, so I want to get in. Okay. So, okay. Question, is there any other COMPSCI? Okay, I've got a few questions. Number 1, at what time does the test open tomorrow? It opens at 9 o'clock sharp. Is there any other COMPSCI courses in future years that specifically teach SQL and also are open for non-COMPSCI students? Well, I mean, I'm not sure, but I can look it up. MacMaster undergraduate calendar. Doop-a-doo. Yeah, I'm not sure. The thing is, like, I'm pretty sure there's like a 4th year database course, but I'm not sure, like, like probably what you'd be looking for is like a second-year course or something like that. Let me take a look. Let me take a look. Prefixes. COMPSCI. Filter. Okay, so oh, there, that looks like it right there. COMPSCI 3DB3 databases. Incidentally, if you're looking for a good second-year COMPSCI course, 2CO3 data structures and algorithms would be like my recommendation. So, data modeling, integrity constraints, principles, and designs of relational databases, relational algebra, SQL, query processing, transactions, concurrency control, recovery, security, and data storage. That seems like the course that you're talking about, sir, right there. COMPSCI 3DB3. Prerequisite is COMPSCI 1FC3 or COMPSCI 2DM3. So COMPSCI 1FC3, what's that? 1FC3 doesn't appear to exist. Okay. Might be in there for legacy reasons. That's probably why it's grayed out, because it doesn't correspond to anything right now. COMPSCI 2DM3. Oh, discrete mathematics with applications. So, if you want to take the third-year databases course, then you got to take COMPSCI 2DM3. I'm not sure which semesters these are offered in. I don't know if this is like a first semester and then the next one's a second semester course. It's possible. And also keep in mind that you need Math 1ZC3 or 1BO3 or registration in Honors Computer Science as a second degree. So there's some requirements to get into this one. But this is functions, relations, sets, the language of predicate logic, propositional logic, proof techniques, counting principles, induction and recursion, discrete probability graphs, and other applications to computing. So yes, this is, I would say that this is also a course of fundamental importance if you are interested in any sort of higher subject material in computer science. I would say this is absolutely sort of essential background knowledge, so I highly recommend this course, actually. Since it's part one of a, I think, two-parter, it's probably offered in first semester. 3DB3, I'm not sure when that is actually being offered. Presumably there's some way to find out. But yeah, this would be, it's an anti-requisite with itself. That's interesting. Anyway, so yeah, there's your path forward, Lords. I take it that you find the database stuff interesting. Yeah, very cool. So, however, let's talk about this question from the assignment. So, we're given the database, what the schema is for the CSV file, essentially. Assume that we buy. Yep. So we're going to define a function, which is stonks. We're going to call it stonks. Lols. S is of course the name of the file. If you take a look here, this dji.csv, that's a thing. Oh shoot, I'm gonna have to actually download that from Avenue as well, aren't I? Yes, I am. Doobadoop. Doo-doobadoop. Boop boop a doobadoop. Okay, there we go. So, of course, the first thing to do with respect to this, since we're working with a CSV file, it will be important to import the CSV library. Then you want to open the file. So where open, where? With. Open, been doing too much SQL. You heard 2MD3 is hard. Yes. Yeah, 2MD3 would be hard. I agree. It's a discrete math course. It's, yes, very abstract, very hypothetical. However, one should not shy away from a course just because you hear it's hard. So, open S in read mode as, call it file handle. Good lord. I'm doing too much stuff that's not Python. Messing up my syntax here. So then csv.reader file handle, I believe that's how it works. Call it just S, maybe? Or maybe I'm getting this wrong. Maybe the CSV reader opens it. Okay, I'm going to have to look. Okay, you got me. I think that's week 8. Nope. 7? Nope. Files. There we go. No, I had it right. Okay. We'll just call it C. It's might as well do dict reader since we have a header row here. So okay. So we've got the date. We've got the date. We've got what we open at. We've got what the high number is, what the low number is. We've got what it closes at. We've got adjacent close. And we've got the volume, number of stocks traded. So so you're assuming that you're buying in the low column and selling in the high column. So maximum trade, the maximum valued trade, we're going to have that as 0 because we're going to be searching for it. So for row in C, if let's intermediate delta is equal to C or row at high minus row at low if delta is greater than max is equal to, or actually I gotta keep track of both of them, don't I? Max is equal to delta, interval is equal to row high minus, or comma, row low. Yep. Then once all that is finished, we want to return interval, I think. We'll see if this works. Name error, stop. Oh, I do actually have to go. No, I will not compromise. Okay, type errors, unsupported operands for types. Oh, right, yeah. They are floats, aren't they? So what did I get? Oh, well, first of all, it's low to high, isn't it? Oh, yeah, you're right. Oh. Right. Ah, yeah. Thank you, Farah. Yes, thank you. Right, because these are each individual days. Okay. Okay. That changes things. Thank you. So the delta, all right, so that changes. This is what we're going to do. We are going to keep that. We're going to keep that. Let's do a new one of highs, and we'll just, basically, let's just compose a list for row in C highs equals highs plus, it should be an easier way to do this, but I don't know, row at high, copy that, paste it for lows, low. There we go. So now we've got a list of the high and the lows. So let's do I is equal to 0, while I is less than length of highs, doesn't matter which. Got to increment that. Highs is equal to, or I'm sorry. Please give me 2 minutes. I'll be right back. I'm back. Okay, we're gonna get it. Give me a moment, okay? So, while I is less than the length of this thing, what we have to do is we have to buy low and sell high, right? So we have to take our low value. So low val is equal to low at I, and then j is equal to 0 while, let's do this way, while j is less than the length of highs. Gotta remember to increment that. Max, let's if I don't really think that's necessary, actually. And j would be equal to I plus 1, actually. And it would be length of low minus 1. I think that'll avoid a index error. If max is less than lows at I, or highs at j minus lows at I, then we do the max update. Max is equal to whatever this was. And that is from lows at I to highs at j. Possibly. Let's see. Type error, cannot concatenate string to a list. Oh, for God's sake. Float. Let's float this one. Oh, for God's sake. Zero, zero. Interesting. Awful lot of these guys, eh? Oh! Is it blowing out? Okay. Apparently you can only read from them once. There we go. Now we've got data in there. Data is happening. Good, 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 good. Quite a lot of data, actually. We can probably kill some of these print commands at this point. Is this similar to what will appear on the exam? This question was too much. No, this is not something that's similar to something that will appear on the exam. Is this still running? My goodness. How big is this database file? Good Lord. Bloody hell. Well, so the question in principle, right, is you have all of these low values and you have all these high values. And so you have to calculate what the difference is between, like, you have to exhaustively calculate every possible buying and selling point, right? Which this is the only way to do it. It's just like, well, it's maybe not the only way to do it. This is a way to do it. It's just taking a really long time. If I were to MSAF the test due to an actual illness, When should I file it? Should I file it today, tomorrow, or the day after? Yes, I think. First of all, I hope if you're feeling ill, I hope you feel better soon. My understanding is that an MSAF needs to be filed within a 3-day period of the test. It can be filed on the day of. The only thing... Who, me? Am I overcomplicating it? Maybe I'm overcomplicating it. It's possible I'm overcomplicating it. You used dictionary and got it. Well, if you wouldn't mind posting that solution to Piazza, then that would probably be a way to do it. Yeah, it's just you can't use an MSAF on something that you actually did and submitted. So if you are going to MSAF it, don't submit it. Okay? But anyway, this is still going. I'm not sure why. I think I did my things correctly. Very strange. Anyway, yeah, Yash, if you wouldn't mind putting that up on Piazza, that would probably be a way forward with respect to this. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, okay. I take your point. I'll talk to Eric about maybe giving people some free marks on this one, because it ended up being a stupid question. You know, the reason that the stocks question from Lab 4, they used to call them labs, the reason, like, I took that out of the course specifically because it was a dumb question and everybody hated it. But, yeah, please do that. Yeah. Yeah, anyway. I'll talk to Eric about maybe giving out some freebies for these. But anyway, I think that's everything that I think that's all the damage that I can do for today. Thank you very much for all those who have watched this extended live stream. Good luck on the test tomorrow, and stay healthy out there.